And so it is, as it is written in Shar HaKavanot, Derushe HaTefilot, Inyan Tubav. Dachachi tu be'av uzeman aliyat ma'an minukva letzah. בסוד הכתוב לא היו ימים טובים לישראל כתוב באב וכיום הכיפורים. כי אז עולות הנקבות לחיריכם הזכרים, וחוסות עליית המלכות עד אימה אילה ושם נמתחין הדינים. And it is furthermore written in Zohar, Parshat Pinchas. ביום הדא התערערותה דכולה, והתחברו בזכר ונקבה. בנות ירושלים יוצאות בכלי לבן שעולה. בחור שנא עיניך וראה מה אתה בורר לכך. שמחה למהלך, שמחה למטה. Sing to the moon, sing. Sing to the moon and the stars will shine over you. Heaven's gonna turn the tide. Shalom, shalom, lecholam, tzadikim, rabbanim, rabbaniyot, mishpacha, mishpachot, all of our loved ones and kindreds who are tuning in. Shalom. As of the time of this recording, it is the time of Chatzot. So it is very late. So that is why it is very still and calm time right now. All the better to channel this wisdom. Baruch Hashem. It is not yet Tu B'Av. In fact, it is Erev Shabbat. This year, most auspiciously, Tu B'Av falls on Shabbat. The full moon, this beautiful, luminous full moon that we will be experiencing, happens to fall on Shabbat. The joyous celebration that comes so fast on the heels of the great and profound mourning and grief of Tish B'Av. Tish B'Av, the 9th of Av, when we truly feel the weight and gravity of the realization of what our exile truly is, and the experiences created in, through, and because of our separation. Yet, so fast on the heels of Tish B'Av, we have Tu B'Av, in which we race towards the epiphany and the ecstasy of knowing that the Shekhinah, divine presence, the divine feminine presence, was always with us and is always with us, encompassing and engulfing us, even, maybe especially, in apparent exile. So is an exile real if separation itself is an illusion? As head of the women's department here with the Chief Rabbinate of Africa, in my work, I am very passionate about unity in all its forms, intimacy in all its forms, beauty, bliss, birth, the pillars of my company, Hadara Care Holistic Organics, LLC, otherwise known as Hadara Womb Care. Beauty, bliss, birth. All three embodiments of unity and intimacy. You see, in my work, it is always about intimacy. As I've said often before, we are always discussing alchemy. And what is alchemy but the union of masculine and feminine elements? And in that union, reveling with awe at the transformation that occurs, the purification, the shape-shifting from dross, impurity, dross base matter into pure gold, tried by fire. Purest essence, like holy sparks, extracted and elevated, refined as tried. We are always talking about alchemy. And what is alchemy? But love making, the making of love. Love is the purity of realizing oneness, the performance of oneness. Love is indeed action driven, not a feeling. Love is action contingent upon knowing the oneness. That is the mystery of knowing and being known. Because to know is to love, as they say. To know is to be. As much as you are what you eat, in the divine consumption, that is lovemaking and its ecstasy, all-consuming ecstasy. Indeed, you are what you know. You become that which you know. On that note, a fitting way to begin this discussion of Tu B'Av is with an excerpt from Zeir HaKavanot, Lachidu B'Av Utzeman Aliyat Nukva Zeir Anpin. Daki Tu B'Av Utzeman Aliyat Man Nukva Zeir. That is to say, know that Tu B'Av is the time of the ascension or the rising of the Mayim Nukvim of Nukva to Zeir Anpin. Daki, know that. We begin with da, know. Echoed in yada. Da'at is knowing. Intriguingly, we find da'at, some say, is the hidden sephira between Chokhmah and Binah. For we know that there are 10 and not 9. 10 and not 11. Sefirot. Or on that middle pillar, that balancing beam of great beauty, up which we climb to the supernal heights in which we are rooted. L'shem Yakud, Kuchabriku Ushachinte, for the sake of the unification of Ein Sof Baruch Hu and his Shekinah. On that middle pillar, we know is Malkut, Yesod, Tiferet, and Da'at. Between Chokhmah and Bina. Between Abba and Imma. We have knowledge. What does it mean that knowledge is that middle pillar between Chokhmah and Bina? And just as Gevura is an extreme at the other, on a spectrum at the other end of which is Chesed, mercy and judgment, charity and restriction, justice and compassion. Then how analogous is Tiferet between Gevura and Da'at, between Gevura and Chesed, to the Da'at that is between Binah and Chokhmah? What is known? What is being known? Why is Da'at itself concealed on Etz Chaim? Just some gentle prompting as we dive into the text. Da, know, ki, that, knowledge, knowing. Echoed in Yada, to know. And Adam knew his wife, Chava. Great purpose in life is to know and be known intimately, completely. To know that the one by whom you are known completely is the one with whom you are one completely. To know is to be. As they say, to know is to love. To love is to be one with. Thus, we even call intimacy euphemistically as making love. Know that to ba'av is a time, Zeman. What is interesting about Zeman is the echo of Zimun, the invitation that occurs at Birkat HaMatzon, the conclusion of the Shabbat meal. The invitation to the blessing that is contingent upon the unity of a minimum of 3 time. Perhaps we could say a time in which we are invited to behold. The luminous epiphany that, again, separation is an illusion, and unity is the principal thing. For indeed, wisdom, Chokhmah, herself, is the grandiosity of undifferentiated wisdom. And that means the wisdom wherein all is one. There are no compartmentalizations, segmentations, and separations. There are no hierarchies. No partitioned delineations. Meaning, in Binah, to understand something, we must separate it in order to make a comparison, in order to say this is like this or this is not. And even to say something is like something is to say that it is not. To understand something in Binah, there must be spaces made and whispers of hinted implications between those spaces. As we say, read between the lines. But why are lines drawn? The rigidity of linearity makes these spaces. Yet Binah is feminine. But it's not so much about the lines that delineate what we see. It's more about the spaces in between and what is concealed there. We tend to think dualistically in terms of polarity and plurality in the mentality of Binah. So in that duality, we know that there is up, down, left, right, black and white. We even say this as a culture when someone thinks in black and white, these rigid polarities. We tend to applaud that as clarity. For it is in the gray spaces that we find discomfort, uncertainty. Because our conditioned mind says there must be a separation here in order for things to make sense. That is Torah Bet, the Torah of 70 faces. Distinguishing between distinct interpretations, creating meanings through the spaces we make, setting things apart, setting things aside. Putting a magnifying glass on one thing at the exclusion of another. Yet in Torah Aleph, there is oneness. There only is, and what is concealed in Binah is laid bare, splendorous, radiant in Chokmah. Binah is associated with Lilith, Lamed Yud, Chawa Rishona, as well as Leah. In the Kabbalah, in the Sod of the Arizal, Ari HaKadosh, Leah is Binah, Chokmah is Rachel. Leah is the Din, Dinim Gevurot Gevura, the severity that comes with delineations and distinctions, the rigidity of judgment that comes from separations that make way for scrutiny and examination and definition, defining things by the lines drawn. Chokmah is chesed. It is the mercy, the kindness, the charity of acceptance, accepting what is without having to define it, accepting what is, and that the is unity, is unified, is whole, and undifferentiated, indistinguished and indistinguishable from the place where there are no others, the womb in which we are inextricable as a child, inextricable from its mother. Tu B'Av is the time of the ascension of the Shekinah, of Malchut, to Imma, the ascension of the Nukva to the place of Imma, the supernal mother. If Abba and Imma can be seen as king and queen, then Nukva and her Zeir Anpin may be thought of as the princess and the prince. Nukva, the sister spouse, Achoti Kala, in the palace. As it is said, a man looks to marry his mother. And as I always say, a man exits the womb at birth and spends his entire life obsessively seeking to return again and again and again through the womb of his wife. And indeed, as the Yoruba proverb states, if I live long enough, I will give birth to my own mother. As women, we understand this because we as daughters were in our mother's wombs. As science even confirms that a grandmother carries within her body her daughter, and as her daughter develops in the womb, she already carries within her the ovaries that carry her daughter. Yet even men can understand the Yoruba proverb to know that if I live long enough, I will birth my own mother through the seed planted in the wife. The mother returns. Thus it is Imma that crowns Zeir Anpin as the Sod of Imma is the Keter of Zeir Anpin, just as in life, a birthing mother knows very well the ring of fire we call the emergence of the baby's head. With centuries of sustainability being the proof of our ancestral mother's wisdom, we know the ideal birthing position, the position of sovereignty and strength, is the standing or squatting position. At the moment of a baby's head emerging from the womb, that is called the moment of crowning. Indigenous societies all over the world, including Africa, Asia, and Europe, acknowledged the pivotal role of the mother in crowning royalty. No king is crowned without the mothers. Even to this very day, the council of elders, the mothers, the wise women, are those who approve the king's coronation. The elder mothers have always been symbolized in the form of birds. Aje Iami, Awaniawa Afinjueje, the ancestral mothers, the elders of the night in Yoruba cosmology. They are symbolized by the birds. And in their honor and acknowledgement of their power, the king is not crowned without the image of birds or feathers. We give honor to our mothers, who from the time they were incarnated in their mother's wombs, held us in theirs. We give honor to our mothers, who from the time they were incarnated in our mother's wombs, held us in theirs. We give honor to Iami Aje, Awaniawa Afinjueje. The mother, the Yesod of mother, is the first crown of man. Imma crowns Zeir Anpin, and the mochin that is built at the moment of crowning through the netzach and hold of, let's say, the thighs of Imma. The mochin, the consciousness, which is the chabad, the chokhmah, bina, wedat, together, essentially the mind, the structured consciousness of Zeir Anpin. A husband gives his emanation like seed in the form of consciousness, the mochin, as lights that he pours into his wife, which makes her one with him, taking on his attributes, his mind, his consciousness, the light that he has poured into her. But we must remember, where did this consciousness come from? The mother. So in becoming one with her husband, the wife literally becomes the image of the mother. For all that the husband pours into the wife came from the mother. So we understand this as Nukva, ascends to Imma, the elevation of Nukva to Imma. She becomes Imma. This is what we celebrate on Tu B'Av. The time of the ascension of the Mayim Nukvin from Nukva to Zeir Anpin. The Mayim Nukvin are the feminine waters that represent the arousal from below. If something is aroused from below, naturally it is something that it is a desire to rise, a desire to go higher. It is our aspiration to elevation. It is our aspiration to cleave upward to Ein Sof. As Zeir Anpin represents the Shefa, the flow, what we call the abundance of Ein Sof, from which we receive all. We are the mechabel, the receivers, the feminine. We receive from the Shefa of Ein Sof all parnasah, success, livelihood, chaya, life itself, all of the good. Zeir Anpin, as the Vav in the name, the Vav of the Tetragrammaton, we see even in the phallic imagery of the Vav itself, the vehicle facilitating this flow, this Shefa. We continue. Besod HaKatuv, lo chayu yamim tovim leYisrael ketu b'av ukeyom HaKippurim. This is the secret of what is written. There is no day of joy for Israel like Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur. Why? Because Yom Kippur is a day of so much joy. The unfathomable joy of pardon, of atonement, of meriting to receive, and even hoping to merit to receive, but meriting to receive that divine mercy from above. The beautiful mirror of that is Tu B'Av, where we feel the ecstasy of the desire from below. We embody that ecstasy of the desire from below. On Yom Kippur, we embody the joy and relief and gratitude as vessels meriting to receive that mercy from above. Two unparalleled levels of joy. There are no days for Yisrael like that of Tu B'Av and Yom HaKippurim. Ki atz olot hanekevim lechit yached im hazecharim. For at this time, hanekivot, the feminine vessels, cause themselves to unify, to join with the masculines. I'd like to explore the words here. Nekivot, the plural of Nukva. Nukva is literally something that is pierced, something that is penetrated, something that is filled. It is an opening, an orifice. Just as woman, from time immemorial across all cultures, has always been symbolized by the cup, the chalice, the bowl, the receptacle, the crucible, the alchemist's crucible, the centrifuge even, for those who know. But Zachar is something that pierces. We need no stretch of the imagination to understand the phallic nature reflected in the sword, the knife, cutlass, the machete, even the pen, the magician's wand, the staff of power, even the pestle, pounding the elements inside the mortar. The mortar and pestle is one of my favorite symbols of masculine and feminine alchemy. In fact, such a distinctly African and indigenous item. It makes us think of our ancient ancestral mothers grinding spices and grains, pounding yam, crushing the seasonings, the garlic, the onion, the tomatoes, the peppers, into sauce. But what happens truly in the processing that occurs when using a mortar and pestle? There's a humbling, a pressing down, taking something down to its most basic element without shape or form. See, we identify something by its shape, by its form, but what happens when it's formless? When it becomes dust, when it becomes this oozing sauce, viscous and fluid. When something is pressed to yield its juices, to yield its purest essence, the seeds crushed to yield the treasure within, the grains split to release their nourishment. There's a humbling in which they become one. All on one level playing field, none higher than the other, all mixed up, undifferentiated, Chokmah. So in this process of the pounding of the pestle, something is being pressed. Juices like nectars, purity being released. That was constricted, hidden in gevurot, hidden indeed in klipot, hidden, needing to be broken open, yielding to yield. Such an intriguing process. Such an intriguing alchemy as matter changes from shape and form and distinction into something formless, shapeless, undefinable, indescribable. Something that just is. A new thing created from this alchemical union, masculine, pestle, and mortar, feminine. So the Nukva is an orifice or an enclosure into which something penetrates or pierces to then be contained. Zachar is that which cuts. Just as a side note, I'm always amused by how our language truly affirms our identity as the people. In African American slang, cut refers to intercourse. It's also interesting that indeed a woman, euphemistically, the yesod of a woman is sometimes referred to as a slit. A slit. A cut. Something sliced. Just like that pestle to that mortar, in our slang, in our expressions, a man will often say, when referring to intercourse with a woman, that he beat it up. He beat it up. We cut. There was a time when young folk in the street would ask one another, you cutting? We cutting? Cut buddies. Otherwise known as friends with benefits. Cut buddies. Referred to the more casual, non-committal types of intercourse, but you get the point. Nukva was a car. Nekuvot was zecharim. So this is the time when the feminines, should I say, nekuvot, the plural, when the feminines cause themselves to unite with the masculines, zacharim. And it's important that we see lechit yached, yached yikud, union, unity, intimacy, zivug. Lechit is important because the chit pl verb stem means to cause oneself or to cause one to. So they cause themselves to unify. They would aspire to. They ascend in order to do so on this special day.
And they say that she's still here now, watching and waiting for how love a kind of skin that binds and washes over pale. No, do not weep for me. Oh, I am not hungry anymore. I pull the shawl now back and forth, push from my core. Her name is Luna. That is she. Her name is Luna. She lives beyond trees. Her name is Luna. She knows the sun. Her name is Luna. And there isn't